Hello lovely people, my name is Emma and today we're gonna get grumpy about some things. So this is the I'm so annoyed book tag and I was tagged by the wonderful Justin from Triumphal Reads, so thank you very much Justin for the tag, and we're gonna chat about some things that really piss us off. I will link the original down below as well as tagging a bunch of people, but we're gonna jump in today with the first question, and the first question is, do publishers ever do things that you find annoying? Give an example. And I was like flicking through these questions before starting this and couldn't think of anything, and then as soon as the camera's rolling I can think of about 50 billion things. And the first one is one that happened quite recently, which is where they rename books, especially between hardback and paperback, to basically see if it will sell better, but don't make it very clear on the cover that it's actually the same book. And the reason why I'm mentioning this now is it was commented on one of my more recent videos about the Sakura Obsession, which is the group book for Springathon. Actually is published with the title Cherry Ingram in the UK, and it looks like it happened between hardback and paperback, and it's really annoying because it's not particularly clear that this is the same book. So I couldn't work out why I couldn't get a hold of the Sakura Obsession without spending like 30 freaking quid, but what this other book was and was it the same one or not. And it turns out I could have just bought that ages ago, and so that's really frustrating. The other thing I find really annoying with publishers is especially there was a run of time where lots of publishers did this, but the Penguin Orange spines are really notorious for this, and that is not putting a blurb on the back, just putting loads of like reviews of the book. No, unacceptable. I don't care that Sam from the Times thought it was a literary masterpiece. The fuck is the book about? Especially with the non-fiction ones, just because they've like found it under nature writing and it's got a title doesn't mean I know what it's actually about. So yeah, really annoying. Definitely just put fucking blurbs on books. It's not that hard. The next question is, have you ever been annoyed by a spoiler? Or like somebody telling you there's a great twist? And this one actually doesn't bother me. I'm really not a spoilery kind of person. I tend to read really random stuff, or stuff that, like, if it's popular, I read it a bit later than when everybody else is, and I'm like chronically online like so many people are these days, especially if you're like a big watcher of YouTube. So that means that I tend to come across spoilers quite quickly. I like hang out in a lot of fandoms where I haven't actually read the books yet, where it's just fun to kind of like pick up on the memes. So I feel like I'm sort of aware of the big scenes. Like Game of Thrones was spoiled for me so far before I even read or watched anything. And for me, I think that I still enjoy what happens because it's not just about the twist. And if the twist is the only thing that keeps you into the story, the like shock value, I don't think it was worth it in the first place. Like you should be able to know what is coming and still appreciate it. The next question is, have you ever been annoyed by what you've discovered in those like free library, book sale, used bookstores? I don't think I've ever been annoyed about what I've found there, but I have been annoyed at myself for not picking something up. And in the UK, quite a few supermarkets will often have just like a random bookshelf after you've gone through the till that is like books that you can kind of swap in or buy something from. And I quite often browse them while Sandy's like finishing up the shopping. And there was a book called, what was it? Satan's Sister, and it was like a trashy paperback from the 80s, and the tagline was just like Sandra always wanted a little sister, but she hadn't counted on Jane. And it turns out Jane's a demon, but it was just the most like hilarious name for a demon, and I didn't pick it up because it probably wasn't going to be a very good read, but it made me giggle. And then since then I can't stop thinking about this book, and I've looked into trying to buy it. It's not really available. You can get it from like Amazon new and used for about 40 quid. It's not on Kindle. It doesn't really exist anymore because it's a trashy book from the 80s that isn't published anymore. And I'm gutted I didn't pick that book up because I think it would have been such a fun read, and I want to know about Jane the Demon's sister, and I'm heartbroken. So if you ever find a cheap copy of this book, grab it, message me, and I will pay you for it because I want this book. I think it sounds so freaking hilarious. So that's the only thing I can think of where I was annoyed that I didn't get it. Sometimes I get annoyed that like random crap gets shoved into the wrong kind of genres in these places. Like frequently when you go to sort of charity shops, fiction and non-fiction hasn't been divided particularly well, but that also happens in standard bookstores, so you know, you do what you can with volunteers, don't you? The next question is, when it comes to short story collections, are you annoyed if there's a novella in the middle of the collection? Honestly, short story collections in general just annoy me. I don't have a good time reading them. Most of the time when I pick them up it's by accident, or it's because it's a classic that I want to read to add to my collection and they're just a bit of a necessary evil. So they annoy me in general. I'm quite pleased when a novella's in there because I think novellas are more worthwhile. I don't think short stories ever work. I think if it was a good enough idea to do a short story, you should have just written a full book. The next question is deckled edges, beautiful or annoying? So we don't actually have deckled edges here in the UK. The first time I actually saw them was when I went over to New York on a family holiday a good couple of years ago. So I think I have like 2 books that have deckled edges. They don't annoy me, I'm just kind of confused as to why they exist. America, what you doing? Is it not more effort to do the like funky deckled edged than to just do a straight like nice clean cut? Like, is that not more effort than it's worth? So they don't annoy me. I think they're quite pretty in some ways. I don't mind the deckled edges books that I have. I just am confused as to what the decision making process was for you guys to start doing them. And it's also interesting that like I don't think many other countries do them. So America, you guys good? Like, is everything okay over there? The answer is no. I know, it's fine, but you know, we like to touch base. The next question is other people's annotations in used or library books. Annoying or you're okay with it? I actually really like them, and maybe I'm a minority, but like I am the kind of person who dog ears my books. If the rabbit eats a section of them, if the spines get broken, I don't really care. I think that they are books to be used, to be loved. If they get a bit battered on the way, it's completely fine. Which means I really like it when you come across an old book and you do have those annotations, or you've got the sort of thing written in the front, you know, like, dear Derek, happy birthday, saw this and thought of you. Like, those kind of things really make me smile. If they've annotated to a point where you literally cannot read the book, then fair enough. Like I borrowed my mum's copy of Northanger Abbey, which was quite an old copy, and it had all of her annotations from when she was studying it. So this thing was like graffitied to hell. And that one I did stop reading it and buy my own copy because I was like, actually this has gone beyond the point. But I think that that's not just like an annotation that you might find in a used bookstore. That was like a really intensive academic study level annotation, whereas I think this book is talking about people just like underlining some of their favourite bits, and that I don't mind. We used to regularly have that at uni where you would you'd get library books out and people would like write comments around the edge that weren't really like analysing the text, but would be things being like, this guy's an idiot, or like, I'm so tired and bored, or like shit like that. And those used to always make me smile because it's that like kindred spirit of another student at another time also suffering kind of with you but not. So I liked those as well. The next question is, if there's a series or collection of a certain kind of books like an imprint and it changes partway through, are you annoyed or okay with it? I'm not really a collector of certain imprints of books in series. I'm a collector of specific classics collections where it doesn't actually matter if they change it partway through because there isn't a partway through to change, if that makes sense. So I don't place a lot of emphasis on newer books where that's more likely to happen. It does annoy me sometimes if I've picked up a hardback in the middle of the series of paperbacks. That kind of is a bit jarring to look at on the shelf. I do prefer it when they all line up nicely, but I wouldn't be like super annoyed about it. It wouldn't stop me from buying it, and like, yeah, I'm not gonna like go out of my way to find the imprint that matches, if that makes sense. I'm quite chill about those. Whereas my pretty classics collections I love, but those ones, like, they're not gonna stop printing them, and if they did, well then I would just end my collection where it is. It's fine. Right, the next one. Do the decisions of characters in novels ever annoy you? Share a book and what decisions you found annoying. Yes, they do. Tons. Of course they do. In romance, the miscommunication trope is a huge problem. It's such an easy, like, third act sort of way for them to break up and then get back together quite quickly, where there aren't really many stakes, and I do think it's very lazy of romance authors. I could list so many there. There's just almost too many to even think about. In terms of an actual book that like really jumps to mind for this outside of the romance genre is, I read book 1 of the Pakala series when Andy and I were swapping our TBRs a couple of years ago, and this is a Russian spy book, and it's like historical. It's set in the time of the Romanovs and Anastasia and that whole side of things. And basically this guy's supposed to be an amazing detective genius, and I saw the twist coming from super early, and like 4 separate people mentioned this particular thing to him that would turn out to be crucial, and he was just there like, wonder why this book keeps being mentioned to me. And it took like so fucking long, and somebody else actually pointed it out to him, and like from the second the book was mentioned I was like, that's gonna be important, that's Chekhov's book, that's coming back to be the answer. And he's like supposed to be a freaking genius. It'd be as if Sherlock Holmes just didn't notice a smoking gun laying on the floor being like, oh, I wonder where the murder weapon is. Like, it was that kind of a level of like, he's supposed to be brilliant but this is fucking obvious, and it pissed me off so much. I will link somewhere if I can find which video it is on my back catalogue where I complain about this. Andy loves the Bacala series and has read all of them several times, so clearly it's not that big a deal and it's not that much of a deal breaker for people, but for me personally, I couldn't buy him as a legit detective because I was like, he's an idiot. That's the answer. I will link wherever who wrote the Bacala series and what book one is. I have no idea. They're Andy's books, not mine, and they're on his Kindle. Right, question 9 is, are you ever annoyed by how someone organises their books and what do you find annoying? Yes. I don't like the colour ones, and I definitely don't like it when people have their spine, the like pages facing out, not the spines. The colour one is just, for me personally, that's a really weird way of organising your books, and I would struggle to find mine. So like, you do you, boo, you organise your books however you want. I will never organise by colour. Andy's favourite threat to me is if I'm going away for a period of time and he's not coming with me, he's jokes that he's going to reorganise all my books in colour, to which I tell him, you won't, that's way too much effort, we have like 1,000 books. But it's his favourite threat for me. The pages out does actually annoy me, because at least in theory with the colour one, if you know your books really well, you can find stuff again. But if there's just the pages out, like, what are you doing? Like, you can't find any of your fucking books, you've no idea what's there, and that just seems really stressful to me. So I don't like that. I think if you're doing that, you're mainly here for the aesthetics, and you could just do that with, like, you could go and buy some cheap, like, you could buy any books from the like charity shop and just like put them all facing that way. You could even just like, they wouldn't even have to be books, you could just print them off and put them over like cardboard and it would work the same way. I also find it interesting when people mix up their read and their not read piles, or to be read even, their TBR. I find that strange. It doesn't annoy me, but I find it weird, because I'm like, how do you know what you still have to read and what you don't have to read? Like, all of my to be reads are here. We love it. This is the pile of possibility. It's beautiful. And then all the ones I have read are like, meh, that way. So never the twain shall meet. And then the final question is, share something bookish that you find annoying. I don't really know. I'm not somebody who overly, I think the things that I've talked about, I think the main thing would be publishers not putting blurbs on the back. That is my biggest pet peeve of all books ever. Like, that's not okay. I need to know what your book is about. Why are you making me pull up Goodreads in a bookshop? So I know it's a bit of a cop-out to loop back to something I'd already said, but like, no, that really pissed me off. Oh, no, and the other one, when people claim that audiobooks aren't reading, fuck off. We're over this now. Like, language is used to impart meaning, and if someone wants to say that they read instead of listened to a book, you don't get to pipe up and be like, actually it doesn't technically count as reading because you listened to it. Like, it's nonsense. There's been loads of research to suggest that it basically works your brain in really similar ways. People can still talk meaningfully about it, and it's pretty ableist to not include it in there. So if you're there like, people always include audiobooks in their reading count at the end of the year to help improve their numbers. If we were having a conversation and I said, was like, we'd both were talking about the same book that we had consumed in some way, and then we were both like, yeah, and do you remember the bit, oh my god, wasn't it amazing with the dragon? And then the person was like, cool, so you've read it then? And I went, no, I've listened to it. You'd be like, what the, like, who gives a shit? Like, you can still talk meaningfully about the book. So I really feel like in 2024, if you're one of these people who's like, audiobooks don't count as reading, they shouldn't be on your Goodreads, you shouldn't be talking about them, you kind of suck. And I think you really need to look at exactly what you're trying to gatekeep there and what your problem is, because I am here for the language evolves to suit the user's needs, not a language is pedantic and we only go explicitly by whatever edition of the dictionary we currently have at this time. And if I want to say I read an audiobook, I read a freaking audiobook. Don't come at me. We can fight about it in the comments. Maybe come at me. Let's do this. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I just need to tag some people, and I really can't think of anyone, so I'm going to tag people in the comments down below. Apologies, I should have looked that up beforehand. So have a wonderful reading week, and I'll chat to you soon. Bye.